Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Sarah, and my partner Dan. We're a movie podcast and we cover 8 films per season on a specific theme. Now, we swear, we chat major spoilers, and we occasionally cover triggering topics, so please do use listener discretion. If you like what we do and want to support us, consider hitting 5 stars on Spotify, or maybe subscribing or even reviewing on your platform of choice. We also have a Patreon with a free tier for lineups and updates, and 2 paid tiers with extra content and early ad-free uploads. Right, on with the show.
We are back for a brand new season.
We are.
Number 11.
Insane.
Isn't it? We probably spoke about this in season 10, which was the one that we did before 11, if you can imagine.
Which we only finished recording a week ago. This is why this feels very strange to me.
Yeah, and we're straight back in with season 11. It was combined choices last season, the flop season. This time it's gone back to you.
Yep.
You've chosen the theme, which we've announced already. Everyone knows what it is, but for just to humour me, what is the theme this season?
Drugs.
It's drugs. We're doing drugs, baby.
Yep.
And today we're talking about one of the quintessential drugs movies.
Yeah, I mean, so in my research, everybody sort of refers to Christiana F. as the drugs movie.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't come for me.
No.
I am planning to rectify that because I did buy a copy of it.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? Well, we might talk about it at some point this season.
I'm sure it'll come up in the wrap show, if nothing else.
So it's not in the lineup then?
It's not in the lineup,
Okay.
no, because I didn't want to torture you too much. Like,
well, that's the other thing that we're going to talk about quite a lot this season.
Yeah.
Probably. It's just, God, you love a depressing movie, don't
I
you?
do. Bleak it up, baby.
Yeah, I know you do. It's funny, like, on the one hand, I would have expected me to come up with this theme, but on the other hand, when I started looking at the movies to choose from, I probably would have gone, nah, actually, I'm not. So it's interesting that you've come up with this one, and the lineup as well is interesting. I appreciate you trying to balance it out a little bit, because there are some. Well, if you're a member of Patreon, you know the lineup. It's on our free tier, but we haven't announced it on the main feed. We just sort of announced them 1 week at a time. But I think it's got quite a good rhythm to it. Like the lineups.
I tried.
There are some bleak bastards in there, but I think there's a couple of antidotes to the bleakness as well. So I think it's. Well, we'll see how the journey goes, I guess. But
it was difficult because my instinct was just like 8 of the most depressing movies you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
But then I realised that A, people are going to start tuning out. B, everyone already thinks I'm a weirdo. And C, you might rage quit the podcast. And I can't do this alone.
I might just start weeping under the stairs.
Yeah, curled up in the fetal position.
Yeah.
Rocking.
Yeah, that'll be my life for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we are back on 8 this time, and we've started off with, as I say, the quintessential drugs.
It's one of the greats, isn't it?
It's one of the greats, but it's not just a. We'll talk about it, I guess, but I don't see it just as a drugs movie, really. It's more about. It definitely is, but it's got so much other stuff going for it. The era. It's a very British movie. It's very much steeped in British culture, particularly at that time, in that era. So it's got a lot of things we could probably. Avenues we could probably go down. Mm-hmm. So where do we want to start? That it was based on book.
Let's start there. Yeah, it was based on book. It's a book that I've read.
Okay, how did that go for you?
I remember enjoying it. Look, I know, like, there was a huge kind of Irvine Welsh boom when Trainspotting came out, and you couldn't go into an HMV and move for copies of Porno and Trainspotting and whatever else he wrote. But I think I got sucked into that a little bit because I loved Trainspotting when it first came out. Absolutely loved it. So I did read the book. I did read Porno. I read a third as well, but I can't remember what it was.
Acid House?
No.
That's the only other Irvine Welsh that I could name you.
No, that was the same sort of era, wasn't it? Was that closer to 2000 maybe?
I did see the film, and it was about that time.
Right.
Guess, yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
But I remember very little about the books, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
I seem to remember them being written in quite a regional way.
I've heard that. I've not read anything by Irvine Welsh, but I've heard in my research that the book is quite slangy. It's quite, there's a lot of colloquial terms in there and things that if you're outside of that area, you might not necessarily understand.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And also kind of, I guess, very similar to A Clockwork Orange, which is going to come up multiple times.
I think you're right, yeah.
Just the fact that, because I read that probably around the same era.
And that was based on book.
A Clockwork Orange, Anthony Burgess. Yeah. And I seem to remember that being, I don't know, not inaccessible, but close to, just with the invented verbiage. It was interesting. It was an interesting read, but yeah, very similar in that sort of aspect, I think.
I think it's got a lot of. I do believe that Boyle was influenced by Kubrick, particularly Clockwork Orange on this movie, and you can see it, like the kind of the themes, the youth. So it definitely does have those things about it, and also the fact that they're both highly controversial movies, or at least they were when they came out.
Yeah,
and a lot of people had things to say. They had a lot of opinions.
There's a lot more explicit references as well, like the I can't remember what the bar's called that they go to.
Volcano.
That's it, Volcano Club or whatever it is. Like the writing on the wall is very much like it's the same font as the Milk Bar in A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, okay.
The song that's playing is by Heaven 17, who got their name from A Clockwork Orange. It's all very purposeful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there must have been some heavy influence there.
Yeah, definitely. Also,
kind of a film in which the protagonists are not remotely likable.
Well, I was going to ask about the characters.
Okay.
You don't think any of them are remotely likable?
It's tough, isn't it? Because I mean, it's going to be really difficult to talk about this season in a sensitive way, because I think on the face of it, it's just like, oh yeah, we're doing movies about drugs. But in all likelihood, that's going to involve some quite serious discussion, I think.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah. But particularly here, like straight out of the gate, we're talking about like the nature of addiction.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a disease. And I recognize that it's not always something that people have complete control over. So it's really difficult to say that none of them are at all likable because they're in the grip of something that's influencing their behavior. But I think, yeah, some of them are hard to be around.
I think 95% of the people in this movie are assholes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I know. I just think for me, there are aspects of probably each character that I wouldn't go as far as to say I like. Maybe it's just that it's entertaining and they entertain me, these characters. Watching them is fun. Yeah,
watching Begbie's an absolute riot, but oh my God, would I be terrified if I were in the same room as him?
Yeah, absolute piece of work, but Robert Carlyle absolutely nails it, and it's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think actually it'd been such a long time since I'd seen this movie, I'd forgotten how funny it was.
Oh really? What's when did you saw it when it came out?
Yeah,
96.
Mm-hmm.
So like
it was
cinema...
all anybody was talking about. So
yeah, it might have been a couple of years before I saw it. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I definitely remember it coming out and Born Slippy was everywhere. Yeah. I believe it was number 1 for a while.
Right.
Great song, by the way. Still great. Still sounds fresh. Like I listen to it now and I think that could come out today and still be like, oh, this is different.
Honestly, I think you can say that about most of this movie's soundtrack.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say timeless, but it's not super dated.
No.
Maybe some of the more Britpop stuff, but the rest of it still sounds pretty great.
Yeah.
Even Iggy Pop, which was like not even from the 90s.
No. So you saw it when it came out then, you saw it a lot, you were quite into it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you wanted to read the book and you read Porno, which is the sequel to Trainspotting.
Yeah. Don't quiz me though, I remember very little about the books.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
So it's kind of always been with you since it came out, this film.
I guess so, yeah.
I've got an odd relationship with this movie. I remember it coming out. I think it was a couple of years before I saw it. Watched it, didn't love it.
Okay.
I kind of was
that
like... That
surprises me.
I think it just depressed me a bit.
Right.
I think... But then I probably wasn't overly analytical about it. I wasn't thinking about it too much. The older I've gotten and the more I've watched this film, the more I like it.
Okay.
Weirdly, you would think it would kind of be perhaps the other way around. You know, I was a teenager when it came out. You would think it would have been more appealing to me then.
Yeah.
But I found it actually quite depressing and tough to get through back then. So I went years without watching it. But now I've sort of seen it a few more times as an adult. I can see a lot more things in it. And it's not just a depressing drugs movie. In some parts, it's quite optimistic in ways. It feels like a weird thing to say. There are tragic things that happen in it.
Yeah, it does feel like a weird thing to say because I'm not going to completely disagree with you, but I think it's quite a cynical film.
It's a very cynical film, but it's about the potential, in some ways, the potential of youth, and it's sort of like a coming of age movie in a lot of ways. It's depressing in that all of these characters are in this environment and they end up taking drugs for, I guess, all similar kind of reasons, and it's very honest about why people would turn to drugs and heroin in particular in this case. But I also think it's quite a naive film in that I feel like particularly the Renton character, maybe they're quite cynical about pop culture and you know, we're not going to choose what our parents chose, we're going to tread our own path. And I think it's kind of optimistic in the way that it's the potential of youth and the directions that they could go. I guess not all of them have full lives in this movie as well, which is one of the depressing parts of it, I guess. But I don't know.
I think they had to sort of cover that element of heavy drug use though, because
absolutely
it wouldn't necessarily have been realistic to shy away from that.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I find it funny that they were already accused of kind of glamorizing this side of heroin use. I can't think of a less glamorous portrayal that I've seen.
Nothing in the movie Trainspotting makes me want to try heroin.
God, no. The whole film is actually quite disgusting.
Quite disgusting. Yeah. The worst toilet in Scotland. God, that's one of 5 scenes that you can watch and taste in a movie.
Oh, you can smell it through the screen, for sure.
Apparently it was chocolate, so it smelled quite pleasant.
I don't care. That doesn't make any difference. Like, if you threatened me, a bit of a callback to last season, if you threatened me with the worst toilet in Scotland or the Bog of Eternal Stench, I'm choosing the Bog of Eternal Stench.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's fair. There's so much poo in this movie, isn't there?
There's too much poo in this movie, and I'm going to kind of give away my feelings on the matter. I kind of have the opposite experience to you.
Okay.
Obviously loved it in my youth. Don't like it quite as much now. And I don't know why that is. I think one of the reasons is that it just skeeves me out. I don't want to see somebody waking up in his own shit.
You chose this movie.
I know. And we watched my copy of it.
Yeah.
I'm aware of all this. I'm not saying it makes sense, Dan. I don't know. It's just, it's gross, isn't it?
Yeah, there are elements of it that are gross and elements that are tough to watch and hard to watch. And I'm thinking of, in particular, I guess, the baby stuff.
I would watch way more of the baby stuff than the poop stuff. I don't care what that says about me.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons anyway. Another, just sort of, I don't know. It's bizarre. I don't get as much out of it now, even though I probably appreciate the creativity way more than I did when I first saw it.
Let's unpack that. What's that about then? Did you find it shocking when you first saw it?
I think I must have done.
Did it like hit you over the head? Like, wow, this movie is different and it's really tapped into that culture. Growing up in the 90s was, this movie was everywhere in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And like I say, that song as well. So you kind of, it was always there. But I wonder,
it was pretty inescapable for a long time.
Yeah.
And they marketed it so heavily.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird. It is weird that you and I have had almost completely opposite experiences of this film.
Yeah. But like I say, I can appreciate it on an artistic level way more than I could, and yet I like it less.
Were you a fan of Danny Boyle did you see Shallow Grave before Trainspotting?
No, I'd have seen that after.
So Trainspotting would have been your first Danny Boyle, unless you watched those 2 episodes of Inspector Morse.
No, I didn't.
No,
I mean, my mum may have had them on. I don't know.
I probably did. But cheers, Nan. But not realised it. So Danny Boyle was not a name for you when
No,
you saw
had
Trainspotting?
no idea who he was.
All right, okay.
Had no idea I'd been one town over from him.
Yeah, northern guy.
Yeah.
Is it Radcliffe?
Radcliffe, yeah.
Near your gaff, isn't it?
Colloquially, oh God, I can't get my words out. Colloquially,
Colloquially, yeah. No, we'll cut all this out and you say it properly and then you'll sound like a genius.
Colloquially known as Dog Shit Valley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Dog Shit Valley. Maybe that's why there's so much turd in this film.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dump.
Okay.
Next to the town that I grew up in. Good old Bury.
Mm.
Also a dump. Yeah, I don't know. Do you know anything about how Danny Boyle came to the material? Like, what was that process?
I believe the producer, Andrew McDonald, had given him the book to read, and he read it and gone, oh shit, yeah, that's great. Like, maybe we can do something in this and we can adapt it. I think maybe that's how it went, but I'm not 100% on that because the book was everywhere. So he may have just read it on his own. I don't know. Because
Shallow Grave did pretty well, didn't it?
I believe so, yeah. I don't know numbers on it. It
was well received critically, I know that. And I'm pretty sure it was like on Film 4 all the time.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in forever.
No, me either.
I think it's probably the first time I was aware of Danny Boyle as a filmmaker. I think I was aware of Shallow Grave, but as the man Danny Boyle, this filmmaker, this fresh new voice, and then obviously went on to do other movies which we may touch on, and not least T2 sequel to Trainspotting.
I hate calling it T2. It's so confusing. There is one T2 to my mind.
No, I agree, but it's amusing to me that they called it that anyway. Sticking with Danny Boyle then, what would you say is the peak Boyle for you? We were having a small discussion before we started recording. We didn't go quite into depth because maybe save it for the pod, but you were starting to say that you think that Boyle was more my guy than your guy.
Yeah, I think so.
And why is that, do you think? What's the peak of Boyle's movies for you? What's your favourite Danny Boyle?
I mean, it's got to be 28 Days Later, right?
Or Sunshine?
Oh, do you know what? I always forget about Sunshine. Yeah, maybe Sunshine, then 28 Days Later.
So anything he's done with Alex Garland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Cillian Murphy, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what about you?
I think my favourite is Steve Jobs, but if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, or certainly before Steve Jobs came out, it would have been 28 Days Later.
Right.
I do really like Sunshine, but I find Steve Jobs such an interesting movie and so rewatchable. And
Who did the script for that? It's Sorkin, yeah. I thought it was, because he only writes white men.
Yeah, troubled white men. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That movie didn't do it for me.
No, I know it didn't.
I tried. I gave it my best shot.
No, that's fair. I think that's my favourite one, my favourite Danny Boyle movie. But yeah, also love 28 Days, 127 Hours. I really like, even though it's Franco.
Yeah.
But I think he gives an extraordinary performance in that. The Beach I quite like. It's not a perfect movie, but I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was probably my first introduction to Alex Garland. And I read The Beach off the back of that movie as well.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I hated it when it came out. I rewatched it again maybe 5 years ago and I enjoyed it more. And I don't think, like, the first time I watched it, I wouldn't have had a clue who, like, Tilda Swinton was or any of that. So with my current level of context, it was more interesting.
Yeah.
But then it gets to, like, the video game bit and I'm just like, and I know it's Danny Boyle's thing to sort of throw in these really experimental like points of view and techniques. I don't think they're always successful.
No, I would agree with you. I don't think that he's always successful, but he does take chances, and I respect that.
Yeah, I admire that greatly.
He's a very visual filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I do like that about him. He's very experimental. And he's also, I think, one of the great collaborators. I've heard him speak publicly about he's not really a fan of the auteur situation. And anyone that can get Aaron Sorkin to collaborate, I think must have collaboration running through their veins. I think that he's
Is
very
he a bit
good,
kind of notoriously particular about his work then?
I've heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that. Although I listened to Danny Boyle on WTF just after Steve Jobs has come out. So I guess it was the promo tour that he was doing for that. And Maron was kind of saying, oh, but Sorkin's he's a bit of a pain, right? Like, you know, if you want to change his way. But Boyle was like, no, he's fine. You know, we got on very well and we collaborated. So I could just get the impression that he likes to take ideas from a lot of places. He's not so married to his own ideas. He can like develop things with the crew and the team and take ideas from all over the place. And I like that. I respect that. I think it's, yes, auteurs, I do like some auteur filmmakers and what they put out, and I enjoy that they have their own vision and it kind of feels pure.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think not enough is said about collaborators, because it is a collaborative medium. It's hundreds and hundreds of people that work on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the directors, they get all of the praise or all of the blame, and it's not fair, really. Either way, it's not fair. And I just think you can see that a lot more with Boyle, and he's quite honest about that, and I like that about him.
Okay.
Whether they're successful or they're not, I don't think he's made a bad movie. I can't think of one. One that
didn't he make that weird rom-com? Something to do with the Beatles.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't love that one. Yeah.
See, I haven't watched it.
I didn't love that one, but do you know what? That kind of doesn't really feel like a Boyle movie to me. That feels like a Richard Curtis movie. And it's because Richard Curtis wrote it.
Oh right, okay.
I think he was meant to direct it.
Oh.
And then Boyle came along, because I think what the situation was that Danny Boyle was supposed to be directing the last James Bond movie.
Oh, okay.
No Time to Die.
Yeah.
But Danny Boyle just didn't have the time. No, they disagreed like on the direction of it, so he decided to not do that. And I believe it was probably just a circumstance of timing. Curtis was like, "Oh, we got this." So that's maybe, in my opinion, his worst movie. But I still don't think it's terrible. I just don't like it very much.
That's fair.
Me. But I can imagine someone else who's into that more Curtis situation going, "Yeah, this is all right." But yeah, I can't think of a bad movie he's done.
No, I think you're probably right there. I think a lot of his movies don't necessarily work for me, but that's a matter of personal taste. It doesn't mean they're bad.
No, but they're all interesting. And it seems like he tries to do different things. He's done drama, he's done thriller, he's done horror, he's done sci-fi.
I don't think Steve Jobs feels like a Boyle movie.
It feels like a Sorkin movie, doesn't it? But I think Fincher was meant to do that.
Right. Okay.
So I think he maybe just slips into, like, if the person who was originally going to do a thing doesn't do a thing, it's like, let's get Boyle. Like, I wonder who was meant to direct the Olympics in 2012.
Huh?
Did you know the Olympics when we had it in the UK?
No. Well, I knew that happened.
Yeah.
I didn't fall asleep for an entire summer.
Well, Boyle directed the opening ceremony bit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he the bit where there was a queen, they pushed the queen out the plane or whatever, and she did a parachute jump.
The Queen did a parachute jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I might be misremembering that. But
that doesn't sound real.
I don't think she was doing it for real. It was probably a CGI thing. CGI queen, probably.
Arguably better than the real thing.
I wonder if that's why that they offered him a knighthood.
Because he CGI'd the Queen jumping out of a plane.
Yeah. After that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the natural conclusion one would draw.
Which he turned down, and I love.
Good man.
Yeah. If someone turns down a knighthood, like whoever they are, maybe there's some exceptions, but like automatically that makes me respect you like 25% more at least.
Well, it's just kind of meaningless, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does it matter?
I don't know. Maybe you get discounts in Wagamamas or something.
In that case.
Yeah. Tax discounts, tax benefits.
Yeah. There must be some benefit that we're not aware of. So back to Trainspotting. You say you watched it when it came out? Shortly after?
Maybe like 2 years after.
2 years
I want
after.
to say, so it came out in 96. I would have been 12 years old. So probably a bit young to be watching Trainspotting, I guess, but not that would have stopped me. But 2 years after was when you're getting your Guy Ritchies, you're getting your Lock Stocks, and that whole thing is starting to begin as well, which I guess Trainspotting was somewhat responsible for to a degree. A lot of the gritty British gangster / drugs movies that we got in the late 90s and early 2000s, and are still going on now to a certain degree, probably responsible for Trainspotting. But I think
So you're saying Trainspotting is responsible for the Football Factory 16 or whatever we're up to now?
100%, yeah.
God damn it.
but I think so. I think what happened was about 98 when Lock, Stock came out, and I loved that. I was like, right, well, let's check out everything. Yeah. And like I say, yeah, saw it about that time, but didn't love it. It was just like, oh, this is a bit depressing.
So you say you get more out of it now, though. So I'm interested to know what's changed for you. Why your opinions changed over the years. And when was the last time you watched this?
What, before last week?
Yeah.
It was probably about 5 years ago, I would say.
Okay, so fairly recently.
Recent-ish, yeah. I've probably only seen it 3 times as an adult.
Okay.
There was one time, because like I say, I saw it when I was a teenager. Another time I watched it maybe in my mid-20s, and it got to a point and we were watching it with my mates and we switched it off because we were like, this is not the time for this. The situation did not call for watching Trainspotting. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So I switched it off, and then maybe about 5 years ago, I was like, let's give this another go. So I think it was probably about then. But I think context might be relevant. It might be that partly because I'm a big fan of Danny Boyle, maybe I can see a lot of Boylisms, if you can imagine the phrase. Seeing where he came from, that kind of looking back to that time period, the layers of the movie, the different characters, and their reasons for being there and doing the things that they do. I don't know. I think I can just get my teeth stuck into it a lot more than I could back then.
Okay.
And I can think about it a bit more. I mean, I was a stupid teenage boy then. Yeah, I think I can just... I don't really know what it is. I can just appreciate it a bit more, I guess. I just think about it more rather than just being entertained by a thing, which is great. But now I can look at it and go unpack it a bit more in my brain. And I've been thinking about it a lot this week as well.
Okay.
Obviously. It helps if you think about the thing that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. It's pretty useful. You mentioned Boyle-isms. What do you consider to be some of his kind of signatures?
It's tough, isn't it? Because he does do very different things. But like I say, I think he's a very visual filmmaker. Very experimental. Some surreal aspects, I guess.
I think text on screen seems to be a big one.
Does it?
In the films that I've seen, yeah.
Okay.
Or it certainly is between Trainspotting and Trainspotting 2, anyway. The 2 Danny Boyle films I've seen in the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of weird perspective stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's that really interesting shot that almost puts you inside a syringe at one point. I don't think there's many filmmakers that would think to do that.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe like the weird first person stuff could be one.
Yeah. No, I totally would agree with that, I think.
What are some others then, do you think?
Oh, it's difficult to say. I think it's just visually. Just visually for me, just the experimental nature, because he's so different from project to project kind of thing. But there's also always an element of this. Is this a Danny Boyle movie? I can't think of what did you see the movie Trance?
I think I did.
Me too. I think I did, and I saw it. It was like, that was okay.
But is there also a film called Welcome to the Punch that came out around the same time?
Yes.
And I think for a while I got the two muddled up.
Right.
I'm not saying they have anything in common, because I don't know if they do.
Maybe James McAvoy's in both?
Right. There must be some sort of connection that my brain's made.
Well, McAvoy is definitely in Welcome to the Punch because I own it.
Right. Okay.
But I don't own Trance.
I don't know. I don't really remember Trance.
I know it was about therapy. It was about like hypnotherapy and doing a heist or something in the brain.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't...
Doing a brain heist?
Brain heist, yeah.
Isn't that Inception?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Maybe it was just jumping on the Inception hype.
Do you think there is a more iconic 90s moment than the opening to this movie?
The jogging bit.
Well, yeah, they're running away from wherever they've shoplifted from.
Yeah, which is like halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how it opens.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, we'll go back to the beginning or whatever." Yeah, it's iconic for sure.
And the choose life kind of monologue.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people mistakenly took to be quite optimistic, but when you really listen to it, it's so cynical.
Yeah, it's very cynical.
Yeah, maximum cynical.
It feels very teenager. It feels very like
angry at the world for unknown reasons.
It does. And I suppose that they are sort of. You asked. Let me go off into a different direction. You asked me about the opening, didn't you? It is. Yeah, it's very. It's iconic.
But
Probably parodied 1,000 times.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's sort of made its mark on cinema, like very few films do.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, The Shining is one of the most homaged films of all time. Psycho is probably another.
Yep.
But I think this kind of edges its way in there, you know? I can't think of another film from the 90s that is sort of more parodied and homaged or referenced.
Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. The King of the World thing.
Not as good, though, is it?
Given the choice between Trainspotting and Titanic, I'd rather watch Trainspotting.
So would I. I watched Titanic recently.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you never told me that.
I was in a hotel room.
Okay.
The shit I have to watch. You get limited. It's like, well, what's on telly? I guess I'm watching that then. And it's all right, you know.
It's a well-made movie.
Exactly, it's a well-made movie, but it's just, God, some of it's painful.
But it's also a romance.
Yeah.
But you like Billy Zane.
I do.
So.
I prefer Arnold Vosloo, but Billy Zane's all right. Yeah, super iconic opening. Is it? Who's the music on the start? Is that Iggy Pop?
I think so.
Is it Lust for Life? Is that one of his songs?
Lust for Life is Iggy Pop.
Right. Because I'm not sure. I feel like soundtrack is more you, actually. The first half, maybe.
Did you know that David Bowie co-wrote Lust for Life?
No.
And because he enjoyed the book, he was a huge proponent in getting a good deal for them to license Lust for Life.
Right, okay.
Because it was looking to be like 3 times the budget initially.
Mm.
So he kind of finagled a deal for them. And that opened a lot more doors to the other music that they were able to access.
Because the music is such an important part of this movie, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
For a low budget, I think 1.5 million English pounds, I believe the budget was. There's so much music in it, and you are thinking, how did you get all of this? But you can't imagine the film without it. It's so important, integral to the plot, and just it mentioned the era, but just one of the things that works so well about this is placing it where it is in the mid-90s or 80s to mid-90s, I believe, is the sort of time span. But to have David Bowie in there as well is super relevant and very on brand for your choices.
I know. I didn't know that until today.
This is the third Bowie movie we've done, technically.
We have him to thank for some of the soundtrack. But yeah, it, like you've mentioned it already, but Born Slippy, is it Underworld? Yeah. Yeah. I can't listen to that without thinking of Trainspotting. I can't divorce the two.
I love that song. I think it's a great, great tune. And I'm not on my own when I say that. I think the first half of the soundtrack of this movie, I said it's more your speed, I think, than it is mine. Maybe like the Iggy Pop stuff. And the second half, I think, is more my kind of thing, because
probably, yeah, the
journey that this film goes on from, I guess, 87 to 96.
I was never sure
kind of time frame. I think it's not explicitly said, but I believe that was the intention of it.
Right.
Because I think the book was set between the early 80s to late 80s.
Right, okay.
So they wanted to do something different, but make it relevant to this time period.
I'll be honest, that was unclear to me.
I don't think it's important.
Right, okay.
But I've heard them talk about that in interviews and stuff, and lots of talking heads and behind the scenes stuff. But I really like a lot of the rave music that was coming about in the early to mid 90s and beyond. So I think that's where I was coming from more. Like when you get to the end of the movie and he goes to London and you get the bomb diggy diggy bomb diggy bomb. Like, yeah, I used to listen to that a lot, unironically, and still do.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the journey that this film goes on. I think the music is so important to that, because the music is done chronologically as well. Like when they're in a club at the start of the movie, you've got like New Order and all that stuff, and you've already done the Iggy Pop stuff. And then as you go further, you've got more, I guess at that point, contemporary tunes. It's just so much a part of the fabric and identity of the movie. So when you say that Bowie was involved, yeah, that makes total sense. And that it's just used so well. I don't know, how much involvement did he have in it? Did he just sort of help broker that deal, or did he have more influence in what songs were used where?
From what I know, he just kind of helped leverage that deal.
Okay. He didn't want to sell on one of his songs, though.
I think one of his songs was supposed to be in this movie. Maybe.
But he was too expensive.
Maybe Golden Years? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. But But yeah, they couldn't quite stretch that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's maybe the only film in the last 30 years that hasn't featured a Bowie song.
Yeah.
Although if we're including Lust for Life,
Yeah.
technically,
Yeah.
we got it on a technicality. Do you have any idea how this film did outside of the UK?
Not really, no. We're not in the flop season, so I haven't really done any research onto it. I know that it was made for 1.5 million. I want to say it like grossed about 70 million or something worldwide.
Okay, 70.
70. I think, did I write this down? I don't think. I did. I wrote down 72 million. There you go. So worldwide. So yeah, I mean, on a 1.5 million budget, that's an insane amount of profit.
Yeah, I know it did really well in the UK. I struggle to imagine, I'm thinking of Americans specifically. Non-English speakers are just fucked, I guess. But they must have had to like go heavy on the subtitles. But even with subtitles, some of the slang would just be completely lost on people who aren't at all familiar with it, right?
A lot of it I didn't understand, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, like Spud's job interview is probably the best example of it.
I didn't understand most of what he was saying, but it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because
that's kind of the point.
His performance is so physical in that moment as well. Is you know really what he's saying by the way that he's acting, and you know that he's screwing up that job interview and just chatting because he's on Wiz. He's done some speed and he's just chatting shit, and it's very funny, that scene. But yeah, I don't really fully understand what the words are that he's saying. Something about pleasure and leisure.
Yeah.
Their pleasure is my leisure.
My pleasure is other people's leisure.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Because isn't it like a travel agent?
I thought maybe like a hotel or something.
Oh, I don't know then.
You really want Spud washing your sheets?
No.
Do you?
Well, maybe, because maybe he'd do a more thorough job. Yeah. He's had to learn how to do Boyle washes.
Yeah.
Do you
Boyle washes? Very good. Danny Boyle washes.
That was completely intentional. Do you have a favourite character? And is it Spud?
I was also going to ask you this question.
Okay.
I like favourite characters. Yeah, probably is Spud because he's the most likeable. He feels like he's the most innocent.
I think he's the only likeable one.
I mean, he's still not great. He's still robbing like old ladies and not a great guy, but he feels quite pure.
He feels a bit childlike.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
He's
disgusting as well.
Yeah.
He's grim.
I don't like Renton at all. He does my head in. He's such like a smug, he has that shit-eating grin, like just...
Yeah.
Oh, he annoys me.
Well, I've never really been a fan of Ewan McGregor, so it's not really a stretch for me to feel that way.
Yeah.
Do you think he's more or less smug than Johnny Lee Miller's character? And who does the better Sean Connery impersonation?
I think he's more smug than Sick Boy.
Do you?
I do.
Wow.
I think Sick Boy is more... They're all quite sad in their own ways. Mm-hmm. But I think Sick Boy is more tragic in a way. I don't know what it is.
In what sense?
I feel like Sick Boy is massively... what's the word? I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
Maybe his brain's been eroded by all the bleach that he's putting on his scalp.
He believes his own bullshit, I think. Like
right.
he'll talk about the James Bond movies and just seems to love the smell of his own shit.
I like his little his heroin shoes.
His heroin shoes?
his shoes got like a compartment where he keeps his paraphernalia.
Yeah, very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think M made that.
No. No. Maybe it was for that Sherlock Holmes show.
Maybe, yeah. It should be like a BuzzFeed quiz, like a personality test. And if you say your favourite character's Begbie, you immediately get carted off by the authorities.
Well, I don't know. Like I was thinking about this. Is he my favourite character? I hate him.
Yeah, he's the
like
worst.
Him,
but he's very well portrayed.
I think Carlisle's never been better. And what else has Carlisle done? Obviously, he was Trainspotting and T2 and that one scene in
28 Weeks Later.
I know he's in more of that movie, but that first scene, I think he's really great in that.
The Full Monty.
The Full Monty, which is a movie that I saw, I think. And God, that was everywhere. That did my head in. and he was a villain in one of the James Bond movies, I think.
Oh, yeah.
A few like British gangster movies around that time as
Mhm.
well. Yeah, really like interesting career, great actor. But
Was he one of Plunkett and McLean?
He was
that him and Johnny Lee Miller
either
again?
Plunkett or McLean, yes.
Right.
And Liv Tyler was in that movie.
Right. So that's why you know
in
that
a
one.
corset. No, I actually owned that movie on VHS and it was
Did
rubbish.
you?
Yeah. Well, I watched it more than once. I've probably seen that more than I've seen Trainspotting.
There's this one point that was really worn out on the tape.
I'm not actually a fan of Liv Tyler.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because she looks quite a lot like her dad?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's tough to get past.
Yeah.
Tommy's kind of a non-entity, which is a horrible thing to say for such a tragic character.
Yeah, he's I suppose he's probably the best of them, isn't he?
Probably.
Because he's honest. There's that one story with Begbie talking about beating someone up when they're playing pool, and Begbie's basically lying, and then a couple of days later Renton and Tommy are having a conversation and Tommy tells him the truth about that.
Right.
I think, isn't that when Renton steals the sex tape?
I think, yeah.
Which is the beginning of that character's unraveling.
Mm-hmm.
So Renton's
awful.
He's a horrible guy, yeah.
I think, is that like a crime now? Would that come under revenge porn laws?
I guess so. I
think that's a crime. To steal a sex tape and show it to other people, I think is a crime. If it's not, it should be.
Well, I wouldn't do it even if it wasn't a crime.
I don't want to see any of my friends having sex.
No.
I love them to bits, but I don't want to see that.
No. It's the last thing you want to see. But yeah, I think that character he seems like quite a sort of a decent character compared to everyone else anyway. And then when that happens, he starts to unravel and he wants to try the heroin because he's sort of dead against it up until that point.
He's like to the point of being a bit preachy about it.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who tries to get them to go on a hike.
Yeah.
Which just leads to grumbling about how it's shit to be Scottish.
Yeah, which is a really good scene as well. But it's interesting that even the character that is against it still falls victim to it because his circumstances have changed and he becomes desperate. And it's a very tragic scenario with that character. But it's also interesting where Begbie is also against the heroin. But there's that scene where he's smoking a fag and drinking a pint going, I wouldn't put that shit in my veins. It's very interesting because everyone has an opinion on what these four central characters are doing, but no one else is really any better. They're all doing their own versions of the same thing, really.
Absolutely. You see that sort of hypocrisy all over the place, though. And I would say like the modern equivalent of it at the moment is people who are just like, I'm not putting that vaccine in my body. I don't know what that is. And then popping like 15 unregulated supplements that they bought from Amazon.
Yeah. Or just like becoming addicted to pain medicine,
Yeah.
It's the same. It's no different. It's just been prescribed by a doctor.
But Tommy is so tragic because
yeah.
You kind of get to see a different element of addiction there because, yes, his life started going to shit, but I don't think he would have gone down that road if it weren't for the proximity to other drug users and the accessibility of heroin.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people are just like, well, my life's not going the way I wanted. This shit thing's happened. I'm going to go out and try and find someone to sell me heroin and then Google how to cook heroin. I think that makes it so much more tragic. Is that could have been avoided just by having better friends? Yeah,
definitely having better friends. And I think that's kind of partly also what this film is about, is choosing your friends, right? Because they're all kids, they've grown up together, they all knew each other because of how close they were just physically in location. It's my neighbour, it's my friend I met at school, and that's why they're all mates. And it's interesting because actually Tommy has that when he's talking about Begbie, isn't he? I think it's the scene where he's telling him the truth about that pool sequence.
Yeah.
And he says, oh yeah, he's a bit of a crazy guy and he's a bit of a live wire, but what can you do? He's a mate. So, well, you could not be his mate.
You could go no contact with that lunatic.
Yeah, but you don't really think about that when you're a kid, or at least I didn't anyway. It took me years to figure that out. I don't have to be friends with anyone just because I grew up with this one person or whatever, or this person I'm related to. You don't have to.
That's part of maturing, though, isn't it?
It's part of maturing, yeah. And
taking a step back and going, oh, this is toxic.
Yeah, and that's part of Renton's arc, I feel like. And it's part of the reason why I feel like this is a coming-of-age movie, I think quite clearly it is. I don't think you could really. Do you agree with me when I say it's like a coming of age movie, or
It is for Renton.
it is for Renton? Yeah,
I don't know about
suppose it
anybody
is.
else.
I suppose you're right, because no one else has that development, do they?
Mm.
And I think it's interesting because I feel like this movie and the sequel are both coming of age movies, but done very, very differently and from opposite ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
I think in the original movie, it's about them growing up and looking at the possibility, looking ahead. And then in the second movie, it's about looking backwards and longing for the past, the pleasures and the adventure of the past. Even if, if you carried on down that path, you probably wouldn't even be here.
Mm.
I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition of those two movies, but and done from very different perspectives. But I see them both as a coming of age movie more than anything. Probably, I feel like it's about developing over a period of time and outgrowing your friends and just trying to make better decisions, or make decisions that aren't completely fucking stupid.
Yeah, that aren't 100% destructive.
When I say better decisions, I'm not saying everyone should rob 16 grand off their mates and do a heroin deal.
Don't do heroin.
No.
Don't steal from your mates. Don't statutory rape 16-year-olds.
Why is that scene in this movie?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure.
Because I was thinking about this too. It's very jarring when it's revealed that Kelly MacDonald is a schoolgirl.
Mm-hmm.
She's like just in her uniform, and Renton's like, oh fuck, and it's kind of played for laughs.
But then they sleep together a second time.
Yeah,
that's like, I don't know. The first time, I'm not going to say like, yeah, you get a free pass because you didn't ask how old she was, but to show him going back for a second time is kind of, that's the point for me at which I'm just like, I don't like you.
Yeah, it's unforgivable at that point. Yeah, it is weird. I don't really know what it adds to the movie other than to serve. Maybe it is just for us to go, yeah, still not a great guy.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because I know I'm trying to come around to your idea of it being a coming of age movie, because I'd never really thought of them in that frame of mind. But I guess I'm sort of used to there being more of a resolution or more growth, more of almost like a redemption arc, I guess, in coming of age movies. And by the end of it, yes, Renton does get out. And as we find out, obviously later on, gets clean, whatever else, starts a new life.
In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, yeah. But he's still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's still a bad person.
I still don't like that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there isn't a great deal of resolution there, even though you're sort of supposed to root for him by the end, I guess. That's what I struggle with.
I think out of all of the characters, you're rooting for him purely because he's the main character.
I'm not rooting for any of them.
I'm sort of glad that he does make the decision that he makes. I mean, I wouldn't go anywhere near Begbie.
You couldn't pay me.
Cash. No, I sort of just leave that scenario. And I guess the fact that he gives Spud 4,000 is kind of a bit of the redemption arc that they're seeking. If he hadn't done that, I don't think you'd have any sympathy for that character at all.
Maybe.
But I think, for me anyway, it's because he's the main character that I'm glad that he's done this. But I don't like him. And maybe part of the thing that I don't like about him is, well, one, he's smug, as I've mentioned. Two, he feels like he's...
One, his face.
His face, yeah. Love to punch it. Another thing is that he feels very intelligent. Like, he should know better.
Like, yeah, like a couple of the monologues he has, he's got a really good grasp of the English language. And he's quite erudite in the way that he speaks. Yeah. Which is sort of odds with a lot of the decisions that he makes. Yeah. But I guess you are viewing it through a lens of addiction. Yeah. It's not like, is that really you if you're in the grips of something like that? Yeah, I guess you could argue it either way. He does my head in. I feel like he should know better because he's quite an intelligent guy. Sick Boy, I kind of don't like him. Clearly, he's a piece of shit. But he's an idiot, and I was kind of a bit more sympathetic to him because he's not very bright, but thinks that he's quite intelligent. He's probably like good at problem solving or something, and quite resourceful. But he's not. I perhaps forgive him a little bit more because I feel like he doesn't know really what he's doing. But Renton, he knows what he's doing. He manipulates people throughout this entire movie. Yeah. Not least when he's
about to go down to prison where Spud gets sent down for 6 months and he gets out of it.
Mm.
Oh, yes, Judge, I'm going to find God now and get myself clean. That's total bollocks, but he's saying it because he wants to get out of this situation. And he's done that quite a lot. But again, I suppose part of being an addict where you know how to sort of play people, you hide things from people and try and manipulate situations to get what you need or what you feel you need in that situation, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do think the sequel kind of undoes some of that goodwill that you might have towards him, though.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because he did act very selfishly. And even Spud has that line in T2 where he's kind of like, yeah, you gave me $4,000. You gave $4,000 to an addict.
Yeah,
so,
what
like,
did you think I was going to do with
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Like, he may have thought he was doing the right thing or a nice thing for his friend, but in reality, it kind of wasn't the favour that it was in his head.
You're right, I think. Sort of particularly watching that second movie, I kind of feel like now leaving that 4,000 for Spud was more for Renton, more for his own conscience
to appease his own guilt. Yeah.
The only one I felt bad about was Spud, so I left him with $4,000, and now it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't care about the others. I can sleep at night.
I just left him to his addiction.
Yeah.
What a friend.
But really, what he should have been doing is been there for him as a friend. Yeah. Because Spud was probably, again, like we say, not a saint by any means, but he's the purest.
He just so the impression that I get of that character is just that he's a bit of a follower. He's not very intelligent, although he is shown to be more intelligent than we maybe gave him credit for in the second film.
Yeah, and I like that. I like his development in that second movie.
I do. Yeah, I don't know necessarily that his kind of archetype is one I can blame for their own addiction, because he sort of feels like he would have just gone along with whatever his mates were doing.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And I was that for a while, so maybe that's why I can sympathise with him. Like, I wouldn't have started smoking at 12 if my friends hadn't been like, oh, we've got some cigarettes. Meet me at the bus stop.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But I kind of feel like about all of the characters, really, they're all a product of their own environment. You do get more of that in the second movie. I feel like they explore it because they're looking backwards, and there's a lot more flashbacks. Well, there's loads of flashbacks in the second movie that gives you more context, I think, about the characters. And I think they're all kind of victims of their own upbringing. Begbie is one. I feel like his arc in the second movie is he has a lot more to do, that character.
Yeah.
And you can see they humanise that character more in the second movie. I think he's actually crazier in the second movie than he is in the first, if you can imagine.
Agreed.
But I feel like they also humanise him a bit more, and you can see where he's come from and the kind of the toxic masculinity environment that he must have been brought up in and didn't have the opportunities that his son is now having. You can sort of see his journey. So
it's interesting that you've kind of hit on the toxic masculinity thing, because I did read that Robert Carlyle played Begbie as like a self-hating gay man, like a closeted, angry, like homophobic homosexual.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of presented that to Irvine Welsh, and Irvine Welsh was just like, that's how I wrote him.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So they were all very much on the same page there. And I think it's maybe that's even more evident in the second film. And I think he maybe makes a lot more sense in that context.
Yeah. Because he's not a huge part of that first movie, is he? Particularly in the first.
No.
He sort of pops up in the first half, and he has more to do in the second half when he catches up with Renton in London. But he's not a major player in that first movie, whereas in the second one, he's a major point and responsible for a lot of the plot threads in that one. And he gets more to do, and you explore that character more.
He was supposed to be like a really big, physically imposing guy as well.
I heard that originally they wanted, or someone had suggested, Christopher Eccleston. I guess because of Shallow Grave.
Right,
Boyle
yeah, of course.
Done that. But for whatever reason, someone suggested Carlyle, and he came in, and he has that kind of small, angry man energy.
He's intense.
He's terrifying.
Yeah, he's so intense.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine anybody else in that role now.
No, I agree.
Certainly not Christopher Eccleston.
No, not Christopher Eccleston. While we're on the subject of casting, did you know that Spud played the Renton character in the stage play originally?
I didn't even know there was a stage play originally.
Yeah, before the film came out. When did the book come out? Was it
I don't know.
In the late 80s? Or whenever, sometime between the book coming out and the film, there was a stage play.
Right.
And Ewan
Bremner?
Ewan Bremner. Confusing because there's more than one Ewan in this
Yeah,
movie.
the Ewans.
The Ewans. Ewan Bremner, he played the Renton character, and I guess it's nice that he was not too offended that he wouldn't do the Spud character.
I was going to say, would that not be like devastating
It must
to
be
an
a
actor?
bit, mustn't it?
Like, we like what you did, but this guy's better.
Yeah, even if like you've done a lot of work on yourself and you've sort of let go of your ego as much as you can anyway, there's still some of you, because we're only human, you're going to be like, but I do know that character. I did play that character for a while. Yeah, but I could see him as Renton as well. I think he would be a good Renton. He's so
Do you
perfect.
think he'd be a more likeable Renton?
Yeah, I suppose so. But then maybe that's not what that character calls for.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's perfect as a Spud, and I can't see anyone else playing that character, but I can see him playing the Renton character. I can't see Ewan McGregor doing the Spud character. And maybe I feel like Ewan McGregor's maybe a bit too pretty for this film.
Do you?
Yeah, like what? I feel like it should be a bit...
I disagree.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
I don't think he's pretty.
Okay, that's fair. I think many people would disagree with you.
I'm sure he's objectively handsome. I don't think pretty is a word I would use. I think it's the specificity of the word pretty.
Yeah.
I can't get my words out today. What a disaster. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it.
Okay.
Not that I think he looks like a rough and tumble type, but I think he's pretty damn well cast.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like Renton.
Yeah.
Or Ewan McGregor, I think he does do a really good job.
The androgyny maybe of that character, is that an interesting angle to come at this from? Is that relevant to the movie at all?
Where do you get androgyny from?
I guess because he's not a... You look at Begbie, he's the kind of the poster boy of a stereotypically masculine man of that time period.
Yeah.
Renton is probably a bit more feminine looking, right? He's a bit more... It doesn't have that Begbie energy about him.
He's not hyper masculine, but I don't know if I'd say androgynous. He does wear tight t-shirts, I suppose.
Tight jeans, very tight jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even true or even relevant to the movie, and what are we saying if that's an intentional artistic choice? I don't know, but I guess, you know, if you're using it as a cipher, like, this guy could be anybody.
I think
kind of scenario.
I think the tight clothing is practical. I think it's so he can be aerodynamic when squeezing into a toilet.
Right. Yeah.
Going for a swim in the world's worst toilet.
If you drop your suppositories into a bog, wear tight jeans.
Is that the most disgusting scene in this movie?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a couple that could take that title.
Yeah, I think, well, maybe the part where people have poo running into their mouths might be a bit grim as well.
I can't deal with it. I think that's one reason.
This was your choice.
No, I know that. And I think it's a good film. But I do think it's one of the reasons that I struggle with it more now than I did when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I was just like, oh yeah, it's edgy.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, I don't want to see that. That's gross.
Why is there so much poo in it?
I don't know.
I guess it's just part of that. It's a grimy movie. It's a visceral experience.
And I do take umbrage with the fact that this film is super critically acclaimed and everybody fucking loves it. But I'm a weirdo for liking Bad Boy Bobby, which is equally disgusting.
I thought you were going to say Bad Boys. The movie Bad Boys. Bad Boy Bobby. Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison to this movie, I think, isn't it? Like,
they're both equally grim.
Yeah, both gross and grim and very difficult to watch in places.
Experimental.
Yeah, experimental, yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, both your choices, by the way.
I know, yeah. Look, I'm secure in that.
I've seen a theme here. Weird fucking movies that Sarah chooses.
Do you think Trainspotting is a weird movie?
Yeah.
Do you?
Do I think Trainspotting is a weird movie?
Well, I struggle to put it in that category because it's been so beloved and so embraced by regular people. I don't know how else to say it.
It was so successful, I guess, critically, financially. It had its haters.
Did it? Were there some people who hated it?
Yeah, I mean, people that would be lobbying against just the mere portrayal of drugs.
Well, I did read that
a lot of the people were saying that they were glamorizing it. I cannot
Come
see
off
that.
it.
But that's the mere portrayal apparently is glamorizing.
Yeah.
I disagree.
So I did read that there was a senator in the US called Bob Dole, who I'm
yeah,
not
Bobby D.
very familiar with, but
Oh, no.
he I believe tried to get it banned in the US because he said it glamorized drug use.
Yeah.
Also important to note, he hadn't seen it.
Fascinating.
Which I'm sure is probably a common thread between the people saying it glamorizes drug use. Yeah, I can't think of anything less glamorous.
It absolutely objectively does not glamorize the use of drugs. I think, but even if Bob Dole, even if he watches Trainspotting, is he really getting what you need to get from it? Like it's not glamorizing drugs, but it is exploring the reasons that people might take them. And I think in order to heal, if you like, you need to be honest about these things and have honest conversations. Like heroin addiction is a real problem in many parts of the world. And I think if you're just, I don't know, it's a bit disingenuous to just portray something and go, this is bad. Like people that do this are bad. You're going to have a bad life if you do these things. I think it's more important to explore why people would experiment with these things. And also, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
People do these things and they continue to do them and you become addicted and you probably don't have control. But some of that time, you're just having a great time. And people don't really want to admit that. But that is, I think it's very honest in that way. And that's probably difficult thing for people to swallow as well.
It's funny because I feel like people in power, whether that's the US, the UK, wherever, do seem to just want to do one of two things. And that's either make like an after school special, just say no type deal, dare to say no to drugs.
Talk to Frank.
Yeah. Or to just pull a curtain across it and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Whereas you're right, we absolutely need nuanced portrayals like this one to shed a light on how big of a problem it is, but how addicts aren't, they're not legion, like they're human beings.
Yeah. But
they've all got their own idiosyncrasies, their own reasons for doing what they do.
Yeah. You're 100%, you're 100% right, because what you're doing by looking at the nuances of the situation, not demonizing it, you're acknowledging that these people are human beings. And, if we're in that situation, we would have made exactly the same decisions. We're not all that different. It's about where you are and your influences and what you have around you. We could all quite easily be in that situation.
And I think anything that helps to humanize addiction and addicts in general is probably going to encourage people to want to help them. Yeah,
well, it increases your knowledge, increases empathy, awareness, and if you can have an honest discussion about it, then that's when you start to figure things out. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you'll always have these problems, but it's really, you just can't, it's not black and white. Unfortunately, a lot of the times I think people are seeking black and white answers to things, and it doesn't exist. What exists is complexity and nuance and having a discussion, an honest, open discussion about things, and that's how you resolve and you move forward. And even that's not perfect, but it's the best that we've got, I think. And there's too many movies where they're just, people are taking heroin. I'm sure we're going to probably speak about a few of them in this season. People take some drugs, and then that's it. That's it now for them. They're off society, and we hate them and we push them out or whatever, and we're going to forget about them. But I don't find that particularly interesting to watch.
No.
As well, and it's a bit bleak. And I find this this is a comedy movie, Trainspotting.
It's a comedy with a dead baby.
Yeah. So comedy then.
But this is why I was so surprised at how much I laughed during this viewing, because I'd forgotten how funny it actually was. Because to me, what I remember most are things like the dead baby crawling on the ceiling. And it's surreal, but I don't think it's funny.
No, it's not. It's harrowing.
It's, I guess it's kind of funny in an awkward kind of laugh at a funeral way, but it's not played for laughs.
No, that scene's absolutely not played for laughs. I think, if anything, the scene maybe later on where the baby's crawling across the ceiling, maybe that's played a bit more humorously. But the part where
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's like devastating.
But the part in the movie where the baby actually dies and they figure out in that scene that the father must have been sick boy.
Yeah.
And the woman's been yelling for hours, or so they think.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that scene is, well, let's do some heroin. And I think that is the essence of this movie, isn't it? Basically, is you're in that situation. How are we going to get through this really difficult period? Well,
let's do some heroin
that's
about it.
going to make me feel good. Let's do that. And I think that's just depressing, but also that scene is obviously very depressing. But I feel like the movie is very funny as well. It's a very interesting movie.
And it's zippy. I had no idea it was only an hour and a half because they pack in so much.
They pack it. The sequel is longer than the original movie, and you feel it. You do. I do like that second movie. I think it's very good. But the first one is so paced so well. It zips along.
It's weird to say, but for a film where a lot of people are injecting intravenous drugs and like sparking out, it's very energetic.
Yeah, you're right. It has that energy of youth.
Yeah,
it's that theme again, isn't it? It's a very well crafted film from whatever angle you look at it. It's funny. It's thought provoking. It's about a certain era in British culture.
Well, the editing's quite frenetic in places, which certainly helps.
Yeah.
And I think they really did stretch that budget.
Yeah, definitely. Even with the music, like you say, with the music, they got all of that for all that money. And I
was going to say, does the 1.5 million include the soundtrack?
I would imagine.
Or is that generally a separate budget?
I would imagine it's the same.
Wow.
I'd imagine.
In that case, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And the kind of, I was going to say pioneering. Do we want to go that far? But some of the more experimental stuff that Danny Boyle does.
I think it's pioneering.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think you can question that.
I think he is.
Statement.
I think as a director he is, yeah. Speaking of which, have you seen the photos of the iPhone rig that he's set up for 28 years later?
No.
Oh my God. It's incredible. I can't wait to see this movie. And I'm going to be the loser that's sat there trying to figure out which one was shot this way, which scenes were shot this way. But yeah, it's a huge sort of rig that surrounds the performer with just a row of like 50 iPhones.
Right.
Just capturing different angles.
Bullet time.
It looks nuts.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the same DOP as T2, because they spoke about, I watched a behind the scenes thing where Johnny Lee Miller, Danny Boyle, Robert Carlyle and Ewan McGregor and a cardboard cutout of Ewan Bremner were sitting around talking, and Johnny Lee Miller was sort of talking about a rig that they had used on T2, and it was really like a well-made bespoke item, and he went to take a photograph of it, and the guy was like, can you not please, because I've made this especially for this film and I don't want people copying it. So I wonder if it's the same
gatekeeping.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the same guy.
Oh, maybe.
It could be. Because he is mentioned before, Danny Boyle was one of the great collaborators, and he does sort of work with people again and again.
So what you're saying is that Northerners are the coolest?
Yeah, sure. And on that note.
I'll take it. Do you know why it's called Trainspotting?
Because of the hobby Trainspotting, isn't it?
But what's the connection? I know what Trainspotting is.
Have you got an answer for me here, or do you want me to just give you my opinion?
I want your opinion.
Well, my opinion is that it's a very British pastime.
Okay.
Of spotting trains.
Yeah.
It's very unique to England, I think. I don't think they have it anywhere else in the world. It's a weird thing that we do. It's very much steeped in our culture, in British pastimes, and I feel like that's what this movie is, and that's my answer.
Okay. So I think you're sort of half right there. Yes, it is quintessentially British. I can't imagine any other countries being sad enough. And I say this as somebody whose dad is a bit of a train spotter. He sits and watches train journey DVDs.
Oh, Lord.
Just like as if he's on the train.
Okay.
It's wild.
What if it floats your boat?
Yeah, precisely.
Doing heroin, isn't it?
He's not harming anyone. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I believe that the title is sort of supposed to refer to a hobby that from the outside doesn't make a lot of sense,
okay.
but it makes perfect sense to the participants.
Yeah.
Like if you're in it, you get it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I like that. That makes sense.
Also, as a little branch to that point, Oasis were supposed to have a song on the soundtrack,
Okay.
but they said no because they thought it was about actual Trainspotting.
Oh, that tells you everything you need to know, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, they were too cool for that movie.
Right, okay, yeah.
Ironically, Trainspotting is now one of Liam Gallagher's favourite movies.
Of course it is. It's that and Stuart Little.
Stuart Little.
Yeah, it's another favourite movie I've heard.
Is it?
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to talk about before we move on to next week? What we're doing next week?
I think the only thing I want to talk about is that I was today years old. I don't think anybody uses that phrase anymore. That's like a cringe millennial thing to say now.
Oh, who cares?
But I was today years old when I found out that after this movie, one of the reasons the sequel took such a long time to come to fruition is because Danny Boyle and Ewan McGregor had a bit of a feud.
Yeah. Do you know how the feud started?
I saw an interview that seemed to suggest Ewan McGregor was like not formally but informally promised the lead role in The Beach.
Yeah.
And was upset when it went to Leo.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we've both come across that information in different places, it's probably true.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it took them forever. They didn't speak for years.
Yeah, at least a decade, I read.
Yeah, and T2 brought them back together.
Yeah.
And it was weird because they sort of sit around and it feels like they were just always been mates, and the way that they speak about the both movies, and I don't know, it's sort of sad that they went all that time without speaking about something so stupid as well. Like, Ewan McGregor, do you want to be... Have you not got enough, Ewan McGregor? I suppose, like...
Yeah. Obi-Wan.
If you're going to be replaced by someone, could do worse than being replaced by Leonardo DiCaprio, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, wasn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, he's done more Obi-Wan Kenobi than any other actor in history. Which is a weird thing to say.
He's too busy gallivanting off on his motorbike these days anyway.
Yeah, he's going a long way round, isn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, I did find that quite strange because they worked together quite a few times in quick succession, didn't they? With Shallow Grave,
Life Less Ordinary.
This, and A Life Less Ordinary. Yeah, in the span of 3 years, 3-4 years. A Life Less Ordinary just never gets brought up by anyone.
I never hear anyone talking about it. I remember watching it at the time when it came out and I really liked it.
Me too.
And apparently people don't like it very much, but that's news to me.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I
too.
Remember thinking it was pretty good.
I really enjoy it. Delroy Lindo's in that, I believe.
He is. And Holly Hunter?
Holly Hunter is excellent as well.
Yeah.
They're kind of the angel assassins, I think, aren't
I believe so, yeah.
And it's got Cameron Diaz in it. Like, what is not to like?
Like, it's a weird movie, but I remember it being great. We should watch that now.
I've wanted to watch it for ages, and you got the disc out, and we lost the disc somehow. But I'm up for watching it.
Okay, I'll try and find it. But yeah, that's about all I have to say on Trainspotting. I think it was maybe important to start with this one because, as you say, it is one of the quintessential drugs movies.
I think so, but it's about so much more as well.
Yeah,
and I think it's a good one to start with because it has its bleak moments, but it's also quite funny. So it's nice to not go straight out the gate with bleak old time.
Yeah, that was my thinking. I didn't want to drop you right in at the deep end.
Okay.
And although the baby doesn't fare very well, at least the kitten survived.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a long time ago now, so kitten's not alive anymore.
I really hate it when you do that. Every film we watch with an animal in, you're just like, it's dead now.
For 30 years.
I hate it. I don't like that at all. Anyway. Yeah, so that's Trainspotting. And it's our first Danny Boyle movie.
It's our first Danny Boyle movie. Will not be our last.
No, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
There's a few other Danny Boyle movies that I want to get to at some point. I will get to Steve Jobs and try to convince you of that film's greatness.
Okay.
Or at least express to you what I love about it so much, because it's probably important for me to just figure that out anyway. But
fine.
Episode 1 then done. 1 of 8. What's 2 of 8? What are we doing next week then?
2 of 8 is a bit of an outlier because it's not a real drug.
Okay.
So
doesn't have to be?
No, it doesn't. We're covering Synchronic.
Okay.
Get to talk a little bit about Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead.
Interesting. Our first Moorhead and Benson joint.
Yep.
Okay. Chad joint, yeah. Okay. I've seen that movie.
We've both only seen it once, but I'm quite keen to revisit because Good cast.
Yeah.
Interesting film. Not quite what I expected the first time around, but I do admire them as filmmakers.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre movie. And it's on Prime, isn't it, to
I
stream?
believe so,
and
yes.
that free one?
To be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking forward to that.
All right, tune in then next week. Synchronic.